Lina, welcome to the creative process. So you're a documentary filmmaker, but you come to this world from your foundation was in dance and music. And tell us a little bit about your family upbringing and how you transitioned into documentary filmmaking.
I born in an artist family. I can say that my dad is a music composer, and my mom is an opera singer, and my brother is a dance composer. So I think from that, became a filmmakers. It's just a natural next steps, I guess. I have a foundations as a professional dancer. I studied almost 10 years ballet when I was little, and I have the foundations, music foundations from my family, especially from my dad. But I found my passion with films, not really with music or dance or singing. My dad expect me to be a singer when I grow up, but it didn't happen. I tried with the bands and stuff when I was 15, 16 years old. But I just found my passion with films only. And I knew for sure that I'm so into documentary when I just started with films.
So I was interested. I really appreciate dance. I love to do dance in an amateur way. You told in I guess you're most well known for your documentary Inside This Piece, which tells the story of the consequences of Agent Orange on Vietnam and at large, but through the lens of the story of Thua Nguyen. You cannot tell that story in dance. In my opinion, I think you need to. It will tell a story of joy.
She's my childhood friend. I knew her when I was a little, 10, 11 years old, and we worked on a lot of charity events together. And my impression about her, that the first time I met her, that about, of course, her appearance, that she looked very different. You can see that in the film. I don't say that scary to me. I didn't feel it that way from the first moment I saw her until now. But I have that impression, and like when we went out together, we went to restaurants and other stores. I witnessed the way people treated her. So, for example, once that we went to a restaurant, and when I step in and other people step in, they allow her to step in there to everyone else. But then when Thua stepped in, I saw people stop. And there was a man that he just stopped eating, and she looked at her really angry, and he just started yelling. And he threw, a bowl on her, and he just yelled like, "You get the hell out of here. You're so disgusting. I can't eat when I see you. Get out of here." And I was there. And at that moment, I was 11 years old. And I remember that very clear. And I started, I curious about Agent Orange, because people around me, they mentioned about it, and I wondered, what is this? Why are people talking about it? And what's that relate to a person like Thua? And I wanted to know. So, and years passed, and I moved away. I moved out of the country, and she's still there. I studied and I grew up and stuff. And one day, I wanted to do something about it. And I learned, I studied about Agent Orange, and I really deeply cared about that, because once I knew about it, I understand it's so much more than just a chemical stuff. And it's just not about an individual, and it's not just about a nation. It is something extremely important and extremely dangerous. It's about the future, of human species and the whole world. We don't want to let those kind of things happen, because if the longer we let those things slip through the cracks, that the longer we just waiting for someone just to like pressing the button and throw our world into darkness. And that's the reason I want to do something for an individual like Thoa, my childhood friend, for a country like Vietnam, who lost the lawsuit in 2005, and for our future.
Yes, it really, of course, these stories it doesn't end there. And even in America, where you now are, I mean, America, certain policies allow for they're poisoning their own population, and that it's allowed to continue, that advocates for cleaner energy are not. We're working on a project for the UN conference for climate change, and it's very frustrating that even when legislation is passed, it doesn't get activated. So now you are working on a film that is in progress. It's been paused a little, like everything else under COVID. It's to be filmed. I don't know if you've begun filming in Mexico, or you've done some preliminary.
Well, it just popped out in my head that would be in Mexico, because I really interested in that culture, and the people, the Mexican people too. And we talk about environment mostly, so I would love to see a lot of area in there is not a beautiful one. It should be some special specific places that currently on my mind. So we're gonna shoot in there so we can show, because it's gonna show the pain of Earth. And I know that there's some places like that in Mexico that I really cared about. So because of that, so it's all about environment. So and maybe some part of that I can show, how beautiful Mexico is, the cultures and people there. And also I want to, mix that with, America and other countries as well. Yeah.
It's hard to speak about things that are in progress, but I guess, as an interviewer, I wonder what kind of questions you ask of your subjects, or are you, do you like to discover it? Like you haven't decided the story precisely, or you would discover it along the way?
I think it should be both, because a documentary is just like an adventure. Even when you make an feature movies, it's still like an adventure. It's too the the filming process, that the production is gonna be, you can change it to completely different version of the film when you work on post production. If you're a real filmmaker, you know that for sure. You cannot make sure 100% about the films when you haven't started yet, or even when you already started. Everything going to be changed so much, through the whole process until the last moment of the film. So to me, I will be very well prepared, and I'll do my best, whatever I could, to make it the best shot. But I know that it's still an adventure. So at the same time, I'm gonna let everything flow. I will follow the path, and whatever it's gonna lead me, I will follow that. And that would be more even interesting and beautiful to me as a filmmaker to do so. I'm more interested in talking about film and how we make it and everything, because for example, when I shoot the Inside This Piece, then to me, I love, working on natural light. If you watch the film or part of it, you can see that mostly the lighting of the film are mostly natural. We don't use any lighting at all in the film. And I work in the film as a film director, producer, and also DP of the film. A lot of people, they don't know that I also shot the film myself. And I think that that's one of the thing that I am really interesting doing so, because actually I work with a lot of like DPs before, and they all good and great partners and co-workers, but for some reason sometimes I have a little bit issues with some DPs, because some DPs, they more focus on the beauty of the picture in standard. But to me, and I know that's a lot of directors going to agree with me, that we will be more focused on the depth of the scene or the meaning of the shot. And those have to, relate closely to the meaning of the film and the depth of the film. So that's the reason I really took a risk that I was the DP of my own film in the my last film. Yeah.
And is that because in previous projects you weren't DP because you've had television projects or whatever, you wanted to have that control, or?
Not really in control. It's just about it would be a misunderstanding, and from there it would lead to arguments and stuff, and that would affect a lot in the filming process that I don't want to happen. Because as a director of the film, I just want, and the producer, I just want everything have to go exactly on time. And that is very important for a film, and all the process, pre-production, production, and post-production have to go exactly on time as possible. So if we have too much arguments and misunderstanding in a film, then that would be not really good at all. So that what I want to do is not about being controlled, because I would love to have a lot of freedoms for my own. So I would love to people around me and everything around me have to have a lot of freedom too. Yeah.
It's a broader story that's not just dealing with U.S. Mexican relations, but it's a call for peace, forgiveness, and resurrection.
It's just a story about an individual that I want to portray that person deep trauma through the vision of Earth. I want to focus on the environment right now on Earth. It's not just about the nation's relations at this moment, and it's not really about the immigration. But if I could, I would love to mention somehow a part of the films about the immigration process right now happening in all over the world.
Yes, and of course, as you're talking about the environment, you're talking about climate change, and of course it leads to, immigration and refugees and all of that. But I think that people just don't know how to move forward. And some people say that maybe authoritarian solutions would be the only way, because they don't know how to, regulate themselves. We'll have to just limit ourselves by enforcing strict laws, because it will just become too late. I think that sometimes the words that are used are too gentle because they don't want to scare people. Like you have to, it's really extinction, right? It's not climate. It sounds very gentle, right? Climate change. And if you say extinction, then maybe that will bring it to people's the forefront of their minds. But have you taken any of the sustainability pledges? Because how in terms of limiting your consumption, because I also get confused about how to move forward and to prioritize and to limit my consumption.
A lot of people is just mostly focused on their own life, because they have so much to think of, a lot to take care of. We understand that. And when they are the leaders, and when they are the biggest organization of the world, and they're still not doing enough, and they're still thinking like, for example, there's some leader are still stating constantly that, well, we are doing great. We are going to make it great. We are going to make it greater. If we just pursuing greatness and excellence, doesn't mean that it can, show you who you really are in person. The pride gonna prevent you from thinking like, from saying things like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I was wrong about it, and that's how you're not gonna improve yourself. But if you go with dignity, you think deeper, and you realize that you don't need to be perfect, and you can improve yourself and be better.
In terms, and this, as you rightly say, the story isn't over with continuing, health consequences or birth defects. I mean, it's not just what's been widely reported. I think that it has.
Right. Yeah, you're right, because just mentioned that there was people who cared about this matter centuries ago, not just now. Because we remember that in 1899, the Hague Conventions, they already put out a ban to chemical weapons. But see, century passed, but the chemical weapons still used now. And we would sadly that we see that the chemical weapon state are still maintained, and so much people, and especially the leaders of the world, a lot of them still remain silent about this, and they are not doing enough about this. And more than that, we are falling in a state of everybody is running for the arms race. And this is, what is this all about? This is all about, the science of mass killing. It's just a science of mass killing, and we call it silent. We call it science I'm sorry, but it's, and if we don't stop this, then we will see, the whole world gonna be gone. And we already have like 5 mass extinctions on Earth. Remember that in history. And the last one was 65 million years ago. And what we're gonna think, we still believe that we are the greatest of the world, we are forever. That's really something outside of fact. And we still believe that we live in this world, which is the place was created for our own use. That is so wrong to think about it that way too. And, to talk about the way how, the way of, chemical weapons works, that is scary. We all know that. Because, all the victims of the chemical weapons not just die immediately that as they wished, because they're gonna die extremely painful, or even in a very long time. And that is, we can call something like inhuman death. And the death here is not just limited to human, but I think it's also, like animals and plants as well. I mean, all living creatures. And that how dangerous of the chemical weapons is. And we really take it deadly serious as it actually is.
And you're in California now, so it's also now, it was on your doorstep in Vietnam, and it's on your doorstep in California. And I don't know how, whether you are affected by the fires, which seems like it's no longer going to just be the fire season, the summer season. It's going to spread into maybe autumn, winter, I don't know. It's interesting, because your background is not issues. You grew up in a family of artists. You are very talented. you just tell us a bit about your family background. So in one way, you had to put aside your artistry to tell these stories of what I understand you feel are most vital importance. You put aside one of your arts because you felt that filmmaking was the best way to tell these stories.
Thank you so much. Yes, talking about fire in California, I think it's happening yearly now. And for Californians and Americans, there's nothing strange about it. And of course, remembering like last year, some a fire, a huge one, a gigantic one happened in Australia. And it's happening now like everywhere. And remember that it's not just about California, it's not just in Australia, it's happening in Amazon. It's a rainforest of the world. And we will see that, remember like 100 years ago, it's gonna be real, it should be really rare to have a fire in Amazon. But remember now there's hundreds of fire in Amazon. And that's what we're talking about, is a critical change of the climate. And it's a critical damage of the climate and the earth. And that's, the lack of care of the leader in Brazil, and the lack of care of a lot of leaders all over the world. And so that's going to be happen more and more, over and over again in the future. And we talk about climate change, we talk about chemical weapons, we talk about money, we talk about power. Well, it seems like everyone loves money and a lot of us love power. So because of that, we don't care about what has really happened. And again, I want to mention that's between pride and dignity. We have to make a decision between these two. And for the second aspect in your question about the arts and film, so I can work on it to transfer the emotions and the content to people. I love working on film because of that, because that's how I can send out a message to people. And if I could make it bigger, if I could, and I hope I could, that I can send out a bigger message to the world, so I can show and I can point out, this is a hole, this is a crack, this is a mistake, and you have to admit that. You can't ignore that. You have to admit it. You have to know how to say sorry. You have to know to say, I was wrong, and I'm going to fix it. Human and the world. And immediately I can feel like, inside of your world, even we never met before. So I can say that, that the amazing functions of art, that, it have the power to connect people. And it can tell the audience that, even in sorrow and loss, it's still beautiful. And it's still noble. And it's still, an amazing part of a good life. It can show people, it can lead people from darkness to light. And it, have the power to connect everyone all over the world emotionally. And so because of that, it has a function to reach out for people who need help. And that's how I love to work on film, because of that.
Well, I look forward to watching it. I know that you will apply your incredible compassion and openness and improvisatory nature and living in the moment. That we didn't really get to speak very much about your dance experience, your music experience, but how do you feel that they have helped you, in terms of your upbringing, make you the artist you are today?
I think they help me a lot, actually. I do deeply appreciate that. For my music background, I I got it all from my dad. To me, he's, mean the whole world to me, that he gave me mostly everything about that background, and so much more than that. But I mean, for music, I got so much from him. It's funny to say, but I love music and I have background music from my dad and family, but I would love to make my next documentary without music. And
well, that's interesting. It's effective.
Because music is not just when you make a note. Music to me, I think, is about music. You can find music in sound. Like if you make a movie with the depth of sound, like for example, if the scene that you see just a raindrop is a music that seems to me, and that's music, and that sound, but is music. And you can see the power of sound and music in the film. That's how I want to make my next one without music, but people can feel the power of the sound, and they can still feel music in there. Like for example, someone just humming, someone humming, and you can feel, oh, that's music, but it's not really music from like professional, how the way people would just normally make it.
Yes, I think it's so. And this experience of silence that now sound has returned to our cities, but we had that very strange moment where even here in Paris, where there would be nobody on the street. I don't know if you did any filming during that time, because cinematographers I know were out filming because they would never have it.
I would love to. If I was there, you could see me on the street and I would run around that. Because that is very rare to happen. Because I remember a couple of years ago, I read a story, an article, that there's two French artists. They try to make a film about climate and the future of the earth, especially the future of Paris without human. It's very interesting. I just right now at the moment I forgot the title, but I remember that film. That it's so hard for those artists to make that film, because Paris is always so crowded, and they have to make a film of Paris in the future without anyone, without human. So I read about that, and I know the process. The artists have to take a lot of pictures, like thousands of a picture of Paris, and they have to Photoshop that to make it like quiet and empty, and then they put in all the pictures together to make a short film to see a Paris in the future without human. And I think you just mentioned about it, like Paris right now is so quiet and so empty. And I feel a little bit sad for the artists in a couple of years ago that now they can do it without like so much hard work.
I heard that many that they maybe do another edit. In fact, I had a discussion with the president of the Grand Palais, and he was discussing the same strangeness of going to work at the Grand Palais, and because you have to have a permit, during that time. Now it's a little bit more crowded, and you just he would cycle to the Grand Palais, and he would see there's no one, and then a boat in the water, and you could actually hear the boat and the make it, you could never hear it slicing through the water. I want to speak about, like, I feel like I use minimal consumption in many ways, but there's still things that I can do, and I like to think about personal pledges in terms of I think we can wait a long time for governments to pass laws, and then for those laws to be enacted, and then they're overturned. So in terms of personal pledges, what do you do? How do you reduce your consumption? And how do you try to encourage others to do the same?
So first I can say that it's very hard to tell people to do the same. It's a hard work and it's long time, long-term work to do, because as mentioned before, that the way we talk about people, to do something for the earth and the climate change problem right now, but it's most of people nowadays, they have so much personal lives to do. We cannot tell people. I think this time we have to talk less, think deeper, and do more.
I can't add any more to that. It's all going to happen to all of us, and it's happening to many of us right now, most of us affected in some way. So I want to thank you, Lina, for your documentaries, your contribution to the art, for telling stories that matter with artistry and compassion, and your important contributions to filmmaking and your art as activism. Thank you for adding your voice to the creative process.